Okay, so we have got Diablo 4 patch notes coming out from Blizzard, hot off the press. Now, these patch notes are going to have a ton in them. There's going to be bug fixes and UI issues and co-op issues with quests and all sorts of stuff going on here. A little bit of adjustment to fixing things with the UI, and it's actually pretty extensive in terms of bug fixing and adjusting some things that weren't functioning properly in game. But I'm going to go through some of the most pertinent stuff, which is going to be some experience reward changes, some balance changes, and some stuff happening within the classes and all of that. And you'll notice if we go down to the gameplay adjustments section, we've got a section called experience rewards. Significantly increased the experience awarded for completing nightmare dungeons. Boom, we got it. It is here. Finally, Blizzard is buffing something that needs buffed for us instead of just nerfing every single thing that us content creators discover and do videos on for you to take advantage of, and then it gets nerfed within 4 hours. Finally, they're making an adjustment in the other direction where it's something positive that's going to reward us. So this is great to see. I'm loving this patch so far. But I also want to say that I don't like it when game developers do this. It just says significantly increased. Like, is that 5%? I mean, we don't know what their definition of significant is. So significantly increased could mean 5%, or it could mean they doubled it. I don't know. We're gonna have to dive in tonight when we're playing with the crew, and I'm gonna have to crunch the numbers. And I've been pretty diligent about plugging in the numbers while I'm farming and tracking what kind of XP per hour I'm getting based on the zone that I'm grinding. So I should be able to get a pretty quick idea of what significantly increased means once I'm grinding here tonight. And if you remember to subscribe down below, I'll definitely keep you in the loop as to what I'm finding in terms of the real number change to the slightly increased experience in Nightmare Dungeons. But all in all, that's an amazing change. Then we've also got significantly increased the experience gained from killing monsters in Nightmare Dungeons. So I'm guessing this top one means the experience awarded for killing the boss, finishing it, all of that at the end when you get that big kind of like dump of a reward where it gives you like the legendary items and you get ready to upgrade your glyph and all of that. The actual reward for finishing the dungeon is going to be more impactful. It needs to be like 10x honestly, so we'll see what it ends up being. But then also they're going to be buffing the experience you get from killing the mobs in the dungeon as well. So we're going to be double dipping, getting more XP both during the dungeon and upon conclusion. So this definitely needed to happen. It's overdue, and I am excited to dive in and see exactly what these numbers end up being. Then we've got Helltide Chests will now provide substantially more bonus experience when opened. Significantly increased reward experience from completing individual whispers across the board. Yeah, the Tree of Whispers was a little bit the Tree of Whispers was a little bit underwhelming in terms of how effective it was after you kind of hit World Tier 4. So I'm glad that they are adjusting that a little bit because it did kind of get outscaled there and became a little bit less relevant than we would like it to be. Fixed an issue where no experience was awarded for completing the holdout style event that can occur after finishing dungeon objectives. So all in all, this is stuff that needed to happen, and this is a great style to go with on the patch, and I need to test all of this to see how good it is now. Then we've got the Helltide roaming bosses will now consistently drop higher quality loot. That's good. Players can now teleport to their dungeon directly on the map, Nightmare Dungeon. So players can now teleport to their Nightmare Dungeon directly through the map. I would say the biggest talking point of this patch, at least so far, as I'm kind of understanding it, is the changes to Nightmare Dungeons and trying to make that a much more enjoyable and rewarding experience for players, because that does tend to be the end game there that you kind of work towards. You start running those Nightmare Dungeons at tier 30, tier 40, tier 50, and now you're going to get a lot more XP, and you're going to also be able to teleport to those dungeons effectively on the map, so you'll have less downtime running back and forth to all these dungeons. But then also the weekly bonus caches from world bosses no longer have a level requirement for opening. Okay, great. I'm loving all that. But now we've got the juicy stuff, the balance changes, what's going to get nerfed, what's going to get buffed, and all of that good stuff. So let's start with Barbarian, and let's see if there's anything super noteworthy. Lunging Strike, going to be generating more Fury. A lot of people like to use Lunging Strike in those Barbarian builds like Whirlwind to kind of dash to that next enemy, and now it's going to be a little bit easier to keep your Fury up because we're getting 10% more Fury generation. We're going up to 10 here on the ability Lunging Strike, so I like that. Bash getting a buff as well. Frenzy getting a damage buff. Fillet getting the bleed increase, fury increase. So is Barb getting buffed here? This is great. So it looks like so far Barb is getting buffed. A lot of people feel Barb is the best class, so this is interesting, but I haven't seen them adjust Whirlwind yet. Double swing getting a little bit of a buff. Kick getting a little bit of a buff. Charge is going to get a buff. Leap is going to get a buff. Iron Skin getting a buff. Call of the Ancients is going to get a buff. That's pretty significant, from 10 to 20. That's really big. And then we've got Iron Maelstrom getting a buff, along with Bounding Slam getting a buff. Then there's a section here of legendary aspects. We've got Bokathos getting buff, Earthquake getting buff, Dust Devils buff, Wind Lasher buff, Devilish buff, and Iron Warrior buff. Okay, on the items, Overkill buff and Hellhammer buff. So wow, Barbarians, you survived. No nerfs. Barbarians viewed as pretty unanimously an upper A or S tier class. A lot of people think it's number 1 or number 2 overall in the class rankings as we get more and more people into the end game. And you survived. No buffs. I love it. So hopefully they're going to be bringing some of the other classes up in a line with unanimous buffs across the board as well. So we've got Druid, Earth Spike getting buffed for sure. Wind Shear getting buffed. Claw getting buffed, Maul getting buffed, and then it looks like Lightning Storm buff. Is this just going to be all buffs? So we got Shred, Wolves, Hurricane, Rabies, Cataclysm, Lacerate. I'm seeing literally nothing but buffs. This might be a pretty easy patch notes for me to go over here. Pummel, passives, I'm seeing nothing but increase. Okay, so they're probably trying to take skills that aren't commonly used. Like we saw the Barbarian, they didn't adjust Whirlwind. They didn't nerf Whirlwind. They just kind of went with a bunch of buffs besides it. So I didn't see Pulverize on here for the yeah, I'm not seeing Pulverize on here for the Druid. Okay, so a bunch of buffs for the Druid here. So let's see if it's like that for every class. Necromancer, okay. Necromancer is going to be getting a bunch of buffs. I just want to kind of confirm that everything is getting buffed. Decompose, Hemorrhage, Bone Splinters, Sever. I wonder if they're going to do Bone Spear. Yeah, no, they didn't. Raise Skeletons. Minions always engage targets with the cast Curse. That's good. Bone Spikes. Iron Maiden getting a big buff. It needed it, so that's good. Bone Prison, Blood Lance. Okay, great. Same thing with the Necro. Definitely. Gosh, it's gonna be an exciting next couple days. I'm gonna have to jump in and dive into testing a lot of these out. So, Rogue. Is there gonna be an adjustment to anything? Nothing nerfed here. Rogues, you survived as well. Rain of Arrows definitely needed a cooldown reduction. That's good. Imbuement is good. And then let's see here, Heartseeker, Veilshot's gonna be excited to get back to the Archer Rogue. Volley, okay, base damage increased 70 to 105. That's really good for a lot of you out there have been clamoring to be able to play an Archer Rogue. So hopefully it's gonna be a little bit more viable now. Barrage got one as well. Then we've got some aspects getting buffed. Okay, now Sorcerer last but not least, because Sorcerer is the one that I know the most about. It was my first main that I played in Diablo 4. So as far as the basics, the definitely best one was the Lightning one, and that's not going to be getting adjusted, it looks like. These basics, Spark, and I mean, not a really big deal here for the Sorc. Incinerate is absolute dog water. So, so Incinerate needs to cost less mana. You just can't chain it long enough and consistently enough. Okay, and then Incinerate. Incinerate is absolute dog water. So I hope they adjusted this a little bit. Base damage increased from 49 to 54. That won't be enough. Enhanced from 15 to 25. I mean, and then the Immobilize reduced from 4 to 3. So, okay, Incinerate definitely needed a buff. This won't be enough. It's still not going to be good enough, I don't think. I'll look over it, I'll discuss it, but I don't think that's going to be enough there on Sorc. Fireball, mana cost reduced from 40 to 35. Good, a step in the right direction. I don't think it'll quite be enough. It should have also gotten like a 10 to 15% damage buff. Frozen Orb is not very good. The base explosion increase. Chance to again, it's a slight tweak. I like it, but again, it's not going to be enough, I don't think. Blizzard, base damage, that's only 10 out of 120. So what, like a 7 or 8% damage buff? I mean, Blizzard's viable, so I'll take it. Ice Blade's going to be a little bit more consistent on applying vulnerable. Okay, Lightning Spear. Okay, Cracking Energy, Freezing Wake. Okay, and then let's see, get additional energy on chance to restore on Incendiary. Okay, good. So yeah, it's looking like mostly buffs across the board, which I like. I like it when they go the route of doing mass buffs to catch everything up to what is strong, instead of taking a build that people have grown to like and nerfing it into the ground. So I think instead of nerfing Whirlwind and Twisting Blades and Ice Shards and Pulverize, I think you should bring some of the other stuff into line to give players more options when they're trying to come up with creative ways to play the game. So all in all, I think this is a really good patch and a step in the right direction. I'm excited to get out there and theorycraft with some of my friends, some of my other content creators, and figure out some of the exact numbers that's going to be going into some of this stuff, and then what builds are going to be a little bit more viable. And we may have to redo the class tier list to keep things up to date in terms of how classes are functioning within the game as we lead up to Season 1 starting here in just a few weeks. So that'll do it for me on this one. I appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your day. Remember to subscribe on your way out if you enjoy daily Diablo 4 content. I will see you soon in the next video. Peace.